Hello everyone, I'm TitanicSizedReviews. I review movies, shows, and video games, and today I'm reviewing The Taking of Deborah Logan. I'm going to be trying to do one movie a day for this month for Halloween. We'll see how well I manage that. This movie was made in 2014. It is an hour and 30 minutes long. It is suspense, horror, atmospheric, eerie, rated R. You can currently watch this movie on Amazon Prime. I'm going to mention the characters real quick, the basis of the movie, and then I'm probably going to get in spoiler territory and just talk about the whole thing, because the movie came out in 2014. What does it matter? So the first character will be Mia Hu. She is a documentator. She's making a documentary on Alzheimer's. And the person she is going to be documenting is Deborah Logan. Her daughter Sarah found Mia's article or whatever to get them incentivized into doing this in the first place, because they're going to be paying Sarah as well as helping with the Alzheimer treatments. The other characters are going to be Bearded Guy, who I'm pretty sure his name is Gavin, but I'm just going to call Bearded Guy. And then the camera guy, whose name is Luis, I think. Just gonna call him Camera Guy. And lastly, Harris, the neighbor to Deborah. But this whole movie centers around Mia and her documentary crew filming Deborah and her Alzheimer's, how it affects people. But since this is a horror movie, Alzheimer's obviously isn't the only problem. More insidious things are going to happen, and I'm going to get into that right now, since I'm going to get into spoiler territory. If you don't want any spoilers, stop right now. The movie's worth a watch. I liked it. I'm not going to say it's my favorite horror movie by any means, but I think it's a good one. It's entertaining. It's creepy. Does a very good job of being creepy. And as someone who had a grandmother who actually had Alzheimer's, I don't know, maybe it just left an impact on me. Alright, let's get into this. Mia and her crew show up to Deborah's house, and they meet Sarah. They get an introduction to Deborah, who's adamant about doing this documentary at first. Obviously, Mia kind of tells Deborah a little story about her grandfather, who also had this disease, which is Alzheimer's, and you can kind of see the sorrow in Deborah's face. But she agrees to do it because Sarah and her really need the money to pay for the house and everything. So a week later they go back and they begin to set up. They put cameras in the house. Deborah has 2 separate rooms for the boys and the girls, obviously. She gives them a tour. Mia explains to everyone how Alzheimer's affects the brain, shows clips of people, the elderly who are affected. And then we just continue watching Deborah live her life normally-ish. She's obviously forgetting things along the way, acting a little strange. And then things begin to happen one night where she loses her shovel, her spade. And she goes and she pulls a knife on the bearded guy and threatens him. Gets very aggressive. Everyone tries to defuse the situation, and then they go look for the spade. They're unable to find it. And then eventually they find it in the freezer. I can say this is pretty accurate. My grandma did some weird shit when she had Alzheimer's, such as putting a diaper on a clothesline. A used diaper on a clothesline. This spade thing, not too weird. Pretty accurate. Well, once they show her the spade, she's just standing there for a bit, and then she turns and skin peels off her neck. Pretty gross moment. So obviously they take her to the hospital to do some tests. And then we come back to the bearded guy showing everybody else a clip of her in the kitchen. And within like a second's time, she's on the ground and then she's standing on the stove. We see a few more moments like this where she's just ridiculously fast. Almost like she's teleporting. It's very strange. They have no explanation for it, they just know it's weird. They show her this clip at one point and she's surprised that no one tried to stop her. Of course, no one knew it was happening, so there's nothing they could do. A little before this, during the doctor's tests after the neck peeling. They do more tests. She has an almost zombie-looking back. Just grotesque skin. Her skin's peeling. At some point, things calm down for a moment, and they bring her back home. And then at some point, she throws a temper tantrum again, and she's wrestled to the ground by her daughter Sarah and her neighbor Harris, because she's swallowing random objects like a child. Well, of course, they begin to do more tests on her, take her back home again. It's just a repeating cycle. But strange things are going on. She's acting very weird, even for someone with Alzheimer's. A little bit later, the bearded guy goes into one of her old painting rooms, which has nothing in there but old paintings. That's all it is. It's just an empty room with old paintings covered in sheets. And he sees pictures of a window with a shadowy, death-like figure. He puts his cross on the window, and she appears in the room. Says that he's letting in a draft, and the window lies open like magic. He, of course, shows this to the documenter, Mia, and says that if he doesn't get paid more, he's going to leave. Obviously, the camera guy wants more money too. So, they get it, and they decide to stick around. A few nights later, Deborah walks around the house naked. And then she suddenly disappears from the cameras. And everyone wakes up to the sound of her old switchboard machine going off. Because that was the job she used to have when she was younger. To keep her and Sarah alive. She was the only one who did that in that town. Well, they go up into the attic to find her sitting naked in the chair. And all of a sudden, she begins to have a fit. A demon-like voice comes out of her. She mentions 337 over and over again. And we find out shortly after that these numbers have to do with a murderer. Someone who killed young women in their prime and stuffed them full of snakes. He was trying to do a demon ritual to give him immortality. As the crew is doing this research into the murderer and what she has to do with it, apparently they believe that he was a client of hers. She is currently in the hospital, restrained to her bed, and at one point she gets up and she takes a child that has cancer with her, and they walk around the hospital. Eventually the hospital staff find her and the child in a cooler, just standing, staring at a wall. They get the child back, they put her back in her bed. They realize that whatever's going on must have to do with the murderer in the past who had gone missing or is presumed dead. They don't know why, they don't know how. But they also know that Harris has something to do with it, the neighbor. He knows too much and is acting strange. During one of these nights, they hear gunfire, and it's Harris shooting his shotgun at their vehicles. Appears to be drunk. He's just outside shooting his gun. They call the police, have him arrested. Everything seems fine. The next morning, the bearded guy decides to leave. He's had enough. The smartest character there. It's time to get out. So he does. Everyone else stays, the cameraman, the documenter Mia, Sarah, of course, she's not going to leave her mother. Harris is no longer locked up in jail. But the bearded guy is gone. They decide Deborah must know something about this murderer. Harris as well. They're clearly not going to get the information from Harris, though. And since it seems almost demonic, which it clearly is, they go and speak to an anthropologist who dealt with a similar case in somewhere in Africa, I believe. And he mentions burning the corpse is the only way to get rid of the evil spirit. They, of course, have no idea where the corpse is or how they can possibly get rid of it. Well, as they're doing this, at some point, Harris goes to visit Deborah. And she tells him to kill her. I mean, he is sad to do this, but he does it for his friend. He tries to, anyways. He gathers a pillow and tries to smother her in her sleep. When he is, I'm just going to say, TV'd and knocked unconscious and in quite a lot of pain. Well, Sarah and everyone else come back to the hospital to realize she's no longer there, and she's taken the child with her. She's also killed a guard in the process, ripped his throat out. And Harris is still conscious when they get there, so they talk to him to find out what's going on, what he knows about the killer, and how this is affecting Deborah. He mentions the body, where it's buried in the backyard, where at one point, Deborah was trying to dig up the body. So they go there and they find that she's already dug it up. It's gone. Missing. They go into the house. They go up into the attic. They search multiple attics, because there's 3. And in one of them, they manage to find the body. So they try to burn it, but it doesn't work for some reason. We don't know why. This is when they go to the hospital to find out that she's escaped again. I apologize, got a little lost there in order. Well, she's gone. They go looking for her. The police go with them. They go to a place where they know the killer used to go, a mill, because they believe she's possessed by the murderer. And they find her standing out in the field, not too far from the mill, with the girl. They try to get the girl to go with them, and Deborah spits venom like blood at one of the police officers, and he goes blind. She somehow manages to escape everyone there. Mia asks the camera guy to help the police officer back to the car to get help, while they go and chase Deborah and the child. Mia, Sarah, and the female police officer who is Sarah's lover. So they go to do this. They go to the mill, and the police officer goes in by herself, asks them to wait outside. You hear a gunshot. Sarah decides to go in, finds the police officer dead on the floor. Her and Mia decide to chase after the girl who they can hear screaming. All of a sudden, Well, they go into a mine shaft. And they crawl through, and they eventually come across some snakes. Crawl past the snakes. And they have the body with them again. Not sure how that got there. I must have missed that part. Sorry. But they get through the tunnel into the cave, and they find Deborah and the child. And probably one of the freakiest moments I've seen in a movie. But very well made. I'm not going to say exactly what happens there. But wow, did that look creepy. They managed to stop Deborah from doing what she was going to do to the child. They managed to burn the bones this time of the killer's corpse. Because they worked in the mine shaft for some weird reason. Probably because that's where he went to go kill so many women. 4 women, to be exact. Because he needed 5 to complete this ritual that he was conducting. And they say that the only reason he was able to possess Deborah was because evil spirits are able to possess those with weak minds, such as Deborah with Alzheimer's. Well, they burn the corpse. They save Deborah and the girl. No one dies, except for the police officer, the guard at the hospital, and oh, that's it. They get out, everything seems fine. See on the news that the girl has recovered from her cancer. Deborah's still losing it to Alzheimer's, can't stand trial due to her incompetence. We see the child and her. She mentions something suspicious at the end. And that's basically the end of the movie. All in all, it's a good movie. I think it does a very good job of being creepy. There's not much death in it. The cringe factors, I think, are what really add to it, such as her skin peeling off. I don't like the shaky cameras near the end. Actually, near the end, I wasn't a huge fan of it until they're in the mine shaft, with that one moment that I'm mentioning, but aren't exactly going to say, because I think you should watch it for yourself, which made me want to give this a better score. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I liked the movie. I did. Some of my ordering in the explanation may have been a bit off, but I think it was pretty good. I think it's worth a watch. I think you should check it out. As I said, it's currently on Amazon Prime. If there's something you think I can do to improve, please let me know. If you prefer this video with music or without, let me know. If there's a movie you'd like me to review, please let me know. Please do me a favor. Click that subscribe button. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. Maybe share it with your other weird friends who like horror movies. I don't know. I think it's pretty good, except for the end. Just right before the very end, I should say. That part's a little... The rest of the movie does a good job. I liked it. I know I keep saying that. Sorry about that. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.